Could be wrong.
Yeah.
Alright, we're gonna call the order of the Glades County Board of County Commissioners regular meeting for Monday, September 23rd, 2024 at 6 p.m. Led the prayer by Commissioner Taylor and the pledge by Commissioner Sutton. Please rise.
Lord, we thank you for the opportunity, the health, and the freedom to be here tonight, Lord. We pray that you would give us wisdom and discernment, Lord, to do what's best for Glades County. Just lead and guide us, Lord, and bless each one here and their families represented in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And welcome everybody here tonight. We've got a long agenda, it looks like. Hopefully we'll get to it. We have any amendments to the agenda? All right, public input on non-agenda items. Anyone wishing to provide public comment, please fill out a comment card at the table at the entrance to the commission chambers. Please note all comments on non-agenda items are limited to 3 minutes and/or the board's discretion. And with that, we will go right into public comments. Do we have any public comments tonight? One once, twice. Presentations and awards, we have none. Public hearings. Number 1, request to approve ordinance number 2024-2023 to grant an exclusive franchise to Lakeport Water Association to provide sewer services within the existing water franchise service area.
Good evening, Stephen Romini, PO Box 1118, LaBelle, Florida 33975. If you guys recall, been here a few times, and we're requesting on behalf of Lakeport Water Association that the board enact what's proposed, this proposed ordinance to grant to Lakeport an expanded franchise agreement to include now wastewater in addition to the potable water that this board granted back in 2011. There's obviously some mechanics to it that are a work in progress. This will at least give us the impetus to move forward. As you know, Lakeport Water Association is a not-for-profit entity, so we're doing our best to work within the parameters, since we're not a governmental authority, at least at this point in time, which excludes us from certain grants in the state of Florida, but yeah, we're trying to move forward. And as I mentioned at prior meetings, we're in discussions with the tribe with regards to working with them on their wastewater facility, the capacity that was initially brought into line in anticipation of their expansion on the Brighton Reservation. And we're also speaking with the U.S. Department of Agriculture for the prospective grant loan packages that can be done with regards to what's anticipated, excuse me, to bring wastewater along with the potable water services serving the Lakeport region, which has already been previously adopted by this board as to what that territory consists of. And speaking with Mr. Pringle earlier today, I had reviewed what he had drafted. There are a couple minor changes that I was going to honorably, request of this board as it pertains to rates. Lakeport is totally fine with having the Board of County Commissioners review the rates, and anything that Lakeport does concerning rates is going to first be analyzed through a rate analysis, and those rates are going to be suggested rates for what's anticipated for that prospective work to be done. So we are comfortable with the county having oversight with the rates, because as I stated, we're not for profit. So it's going to be bare bones with regards to what needs to be done to get the system either expanded, started, whatever the case may be. The only problem I had was when it limited potentially my board's ability to decide what projects to undertake or where to expand, how to expand. And I think that Mr. Pringle has my proposed edits to that to eliminate my board's autonomy, so to speak, with regards to what's the best way to bring this project forward and get it out of the ground and expand and move from there. So I believe in section 7 there were a couple small language deletions I was requesting, which I gave to Mr. Pringle. And then with regards to what is depicted as section 16, we're requesting that that section be deleted in its entirety because it's already well contained within the ordinance that the Board of County Commissioners of Wayne County has oversight as it pertains to any rate structure that Lakeport would propose to implement on its customers. That being said, if anybody has any questions, I do appreciate your time and your consideration. We're urging you to adopt this ordinance so we can move into the next phase. And as I stated, we're working with the tribe, but as everybody may be aware of, there's a developer who's looking in that area to greatly expand housing. So we need this yesterday as opposed to tomorrow, so to speak. But thank you.
Mr. Mooney, you said your board has no problem with the county commission overseeing the rates.
No. And what's in place is already in place with the potable water. So when we initially adopted our potable water schedule and capacity charges, and we provided everything historically to the county to first review. And obviously as any expansion, at least in the area of litigation is concerned, you have to have a reasonable basis to rely upon to assess whatever charges or fees or whatever else may flow with that, so to speak. So I'm very comfortable with the perspective of any time we come forward with either they're implementing new charges or amending charges, we're going to have the data to support that and then give Wayne County the oversight in that regard. The only problem I had, as I stated, was limiting my board, or if my board wants to expand out a particular street, that's the first one to know with the county before we can move forward. I don't think that's a very workable type of equation. So as it comes to my board's autonomy to decide what is best in Lakeport, what's affordable in Lakeport, what's doable in Lakeport, leave it to my board, subject to the rate reviewed by the county.
I was on Lakeport Water Board. I don't want to drop the whole car, but if they're okay with it, I'm okay with it.
Well, and I think it's a necessity to see into the future where at some point I believe the state's going to mandate certain changes with regards to all the septic systems, especially in the Lake Okeechobee vicinity. So we're trying to get ahead of the curve, even though we're not a governmental entity. We're trying to get ahead of that and get that area jump started, so to speak, which I think is a great service to Wayne County ultimately.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Yes. In response in part to Commissioner Whidden, the goal in this ordinance is to strike the balance between the county commission's need to control rates that are charged to county residents, and at the same time give the Lakeport Water Association the ability to perform the function that the separate nonprofit corporation is designed to provide. And that's part of the reason that Mr. Ramuni and I had the discussion, and I'm willing to make the change in the ordinance language regarding Lakeport Water Associations having autonomy on the decision-making on where to place the services in their franchise area. The county has controlled the franchise area in this ordinance by creating external boundaries of the franchise area. I believe it is okay and acceptable for the Board of County Commissioners to give the Lakeport Water Association the authority to determine where within that franchise area the Lakeport Water Association should and can provide services. That's fine. I'm okay. What Mr. Ramuni and I also agreed on is when it comes to charging rates and determining the amount of cost for either hookups or installation or monthly rates for services, those all impact the county residents as a whole in the entire franchise area. And so those decisions should come back before the Board of County Commissioners for the Board of County Commissioners to approve in the Board of County Commissioners' reasonable discretion. I made sure to make it clear in the ordinance that the board will not have the sole and unilateral discretion to do whatever you think you want to do, because this is for a 50-year franchise. So you're not going to be there, I'm not going to be here when the later years of this franchise ordinance are still in effect. And so we want to have some reasonable discretion imposed upon the Board of County Commissioners as well. Don't know who's going to hold your seats in the future, but it is important for us to make sure that they understand they've got to exercise their authority using some reasonable discretion, not just unilateral. So all of those provisions are in here. The part that, and I also wanted to make sure that the Board of County Commissioners has the opportunity to have say in the placement of improvements within your right-of-ways, because many of the lines will be located in the right-of-ways, and so that provision is also there. But Mr. Ramuni is correct, and I will be the first to admit that when it comes to the county, I may have a little stronger position than I end up having to have at the end of it all. But I start out with a stronger position oftentimes. So I'm okay with, as Mr. Ramuni indicated, with removing Article 16 altogether. And ultimately, Mr. Chairman, this is a public hearing. This is the adoption of an ordinance. The ordinance does also constitute an agreement. There's a provision in the ordinance that indicates that upon Lakeport Water Association signing the ordinance, then it will also be not only an ordinance, but also an agreement between the parties, a franchise agreement between the parties. So all of those bases are covered so that you don't have to deal with this again. And so that Lakeport Water Association can go ahead and do what they need to do without any further delays. Mr. Chairman, if it is the board's desire to approve the ordinance with the revisions that Mr. Ramuni has mentioned and that I have concurred are acceptable to me as county attorney, then it would be a motion that you could, after you receive public input, as a public hearing, you could entertain a motion to approve the ordinance with authority for me to make the revisions and then for you to sign the ordinance once I get the revisions made that we discussed here today.
I'm just going to read the title of the ordinance into the record. An ordinance granting an exclusive franchise to Lakeport Water Association Incorporated to construct, operate, and maintain a potable water and wastewater sanitary sewer system in a portion of the unincorporated area of Glades County, setting forth conditions and privileges accompanying the grant of franchise, providing for rates and charges and for service standards, prohibiting the use of individual potable water and wastewater sanitary sewer systems within the franchise area, providing for water and sewer connections, and penalties for the violation of such provisions, providing for authority, providing for codification, providing for scrivener's errors, providing for conflict, providing for liberal construction, providing for severe building, and providing for an effective date. So, any public comment? Seeing none?
Mr. Chair, so the only revision of it, we're just removing section 16.
No, sir. We would remove section 16. There were two references to the county exercising its discretion on a decision by Lakeport Water Association to expand their services area. So they have the entire franchise area, but within that franchise area, they are only serving a certain smaller part of that. What the lawyers have agreed is reasonable is for the Lakeport Water Association to decide in the future on its own, related to the expansion of the provision of services within the franchise area, beyond the current areas that they serve, right?
Right, so right now, there's no potable water, there's no wastewater, there's only potable water. So when we implement our plan as to where we want, obviously, if there's county rights of way and things that we need to discuss with the county, we will. But in essence, to make it sole determination as to, okay, we're gonna, phase one will be here, phase two will be there, and then work from there.
And your board is good with it?
Yes, that's what we request.
With that, Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve ordinance number 2024-23 to grant an exclusive franchise to Lakeport Water Association to provide sewer services with an existing water franchise service area, and authorize the chairman to sign with the changes so mentioned.
And to authorize the attorneys to make the revisions.
Yes, sir. So,
Okay.
Second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Whitten, second by Commissioner Taylor. Any discussion from the board? I'll ask for public comment one more time. Seeing none, we'll do a roll call. Myself is yes. Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Whitten?
yes.
Commissioner Sapp?
Yes.
Passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad we got that out of the way.
Yes, very
It's
good.
been a long
Yes.
haul. Thank you for everything you've done, you guys. I know you worked hard on that.
Thank you.
All right, number 2, request to approve an ordinance number 2024-24 to extend the term of the franchise with the Oklahoma Utility Authority through September 30th, 2026. Framework.
Do you want me to discuss that? I can.
I think you can just give an update.
Okay.
Why we're here.
Yes, sir. So again, this is a public hearing. It is for the adoption of an ordinance to, in this case, extend the current non-exclusive franchise that Glades County gave to Okeechobee Beach Water Association, now acting or operating through Okeechobee Utility Authority as the S&E of Okeechobee Beach Water Association. So we, the lawyer and staff for OUA and your staff talked about granting an additional franchise. And in the end, because we are still working on some other provisions, and because we wanted to have the prior franchise has actually expired, termed out. So to give us some more time to work through the questions related to the provision of sewer services and water services and everything else that we are needing to talk about, I proposed that we extend the current franchise time period for an additional 2 years through September 30, 2026, a little bit more than 2 years, through September 30, 2026, and that will give us an opportunity to work out the rest of the details that need to be worked out. It's the easy solution for now, and will enable us to come back to you with the more long-term solution when we have the rest of the information that we need to do so. This is an ordinance adoption, so it is also a public hearing, Mr. Chairman, process.
All right, I'm gonna read the ordinance title. An ordinance amending Glades County Ordinance number 93-4 as amended to extend the term of the franchise, providing for authority, providing for codification, providing for scrivener's errors, providing for conflict, providing for liberal construction, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. So, I will ask for public comment.
So, Steve Dobbs, 1062 Jakes Way for the record. I'm not sure who is gonna keep up with the deadlines this time, but we need to keep up with the deadlines. I was the guy that was informed by OUA that the franchise agreement had expired. You know, there, to me, and I had a conversation with the chairman of the board of OUA, and, you know, I said, look, you have customers out there, you know. I don't know how this franchise agreement handles existing customers on a line like that, you know. And I told him, I said, look, you know, there's a lot of septic to sewer going on right now. You supply the water. You're obviously the logical guy to supply the sewer out here. You know, to me, it's more of a moral obligation to him. I don't know how that would impact him with this franchise agreement, but, you know, we don't need to let this one lapse. We need to make sure that we have something in place long-term, you know, to take care of the residents of Buckhead Ridge.
And our ultimate goal is to do a 50, but there's so many different.
I understand.
going on
Well,
right now.
I'm in the middle of
We need to
Trust
start on that agreement today.
Trust me, I understand. I'm in the middle of a lot of it, so, but we just need to make sure, like I said, that, you know, we don't let this lapse. I don't know what the ramifications are. I don't know if OUA could say, we're not gonna supply the water, sewer, or whatever. I'm not an attorney, but, I do have strong feelings about it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve ordinance number 2024-24 to extend the term of the franchise of Cherokee Utilities Authority through September 30th, 2026, and authorize the chairman to sign.
Second. A motion by Commissioner Sapp, second by Commissioner Wooden. Any discussion? Ask for public hearing one more time. Being none, we'll do a roll call vote. That's off to yes. Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Wooden?
Yes.
Commissioner Sapp?
Yes.
Passes 4-0. Okay, moving on, our consent agenda is number 3, county warrants. Number 4, equitable sharing fund, DOJ request.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I'll need to abstain from voting on Taylor Electric and Air Conditioning bill item as I am a relative.
Motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Witten, second by Commissioner Sapp. With Commissioner Taylor abstaining from Taylor Electric bills. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. All right, public input on business agenda items. Anyone wishing to provide public comment on an agenda item, please file a comment card on the table at the entrance to the commission chambers. Please note all comments on the agenda items are limited to 3 minutes and or the board's discretion. Business agenda number 5 is Florida Statute 197-323, extension of tax roll during value adjustment hearing and authorized reflection of taxes. This is John.
Jill Jones, tax collector for the record. I guess technically I don't need to be here tonight because Brittany informed me this afternoon that you had 5 that had filed petitions for the VAB and that they've all been settled. So technically I don't need to come before you to request the roll to be extended, but because it's something that I do every year, what this does is if there were some that were not agreed upon and everything, then I would not be able to, when the property appraiser certifies the roll to me, I wouldn't be able to collect the bills until the VAB was done. With this, the law allows that you grant me the authority to have the roll extended. It doesn't delay the tax roll at all, so I can start collecting November 1.
So do you still want us to do the extension?
So if you don't mind, it's something that I have to do every year, even though we don't have any. I figured I'm already been on the agenda now. I didn't know that they had just canceled or settled, so it's already on the record. You already have your motion.
So is the window closed now? Nobody else can apply, or?
Well, they could still file if they have good clause.
Okay.
Mr.
Chair, I'd make a motion to approve and authorize the extension of the 2024 tax roll as authorized by FS 197.323. So collection of the tax roll will begin November 1st, 2024.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Whitten, second by Commissioner Taylor. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 6, signature for renewal of property and casualty insurance coverage for 2024-2025 budget year.
Yes, sir. Bailey's actually out sick today, so I'll take this one. We have received a renewal. Currently, it's a 4.16% increase, which is very reasonable. I did want the board to know that they did remove the bridge.
Oh, good.
So that may be the reason why we have a minimal increase, but that was removed. So we would just ask that the board approve for signature renewal of the property and casualty insurance.
Thank you.
So that bridge is just still sitting out there in limbo, or?
DOT still owns it.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve signature for renewal of property and casualty insurance coverages for 2024-2025 budget year.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Whitten, second by Commissioner Sapp. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Number 7 is request to release funds back to the city of Moorhaven.
The county has been receiving funds from the city for quite some time now. There was an agreement that the gas tax would be divided 20-80 between the city and the county. And then the city actually remits 80% of their 20% to the county. I've had discussions with the city manager, and there's no document that anyone can find that actually spells out exactly what the intentions of those funds are for. The county's been holding them in a separate account. So now the city has requested that we return those funds, and it's a little over $612,000 that they have. With that amount, we request that the board approve to remit the funds back to the city. And then they have chose not to do that in the future, so they'll be keeping whatever their gas taxes are. And the city manager is here if you have any questions for him.
So it never was determined why that was done in the first place?
We can't find any document that, an
It
agreement
doesn't-
or anything.
It doesn't belong to us, it's the city's.
It is actually the city's gas tax.
So with that, I make a motion to approve the release of gas tax funds back to the city of Moorhaven in the amount of $612,420.30.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Taylor, second by Commissioner Sapp. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You're rich. Now can we get a loan?
One sidewalk project is going.
All right, number 8, request to approve contract between Glades County Board of County Commissioners and the State of Florida Department of Health for operation of the Glades County Health Department contract year 2024-2025.
This is our annual contract with the health department. It is again at $139,128. And that is the exact amount that we actually have budgeted, so. But it is our annual contract, we bring this back every year to the board, just request approval.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the annual contract between the Glades County Board of County Commissioners and the State of Florida Department of Health for operation of the Glades County Health Department in the amount of $139,128.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sapp, second by Commissioner Whitten. Any discussion? Thank you for keeping their budget. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Number 9, adoption of board approved pay increase policy.
This is a policy that the board talked about briefly during our discussion on pay increases. What we have done is Bailey and I have drafted a policy, and it basically says that you're eligible for the
pay increase if you're not a probationary employee. There was a question previously about, well, do we give them the pay increase once they complete their probation, or do we just move past that and they'll be eligible at the next fiscal year? This policy currently says that we just move past and they'll be eligible the next fiscal year. So just looking for either the board to adopt or direction on how you would like changes. But I do know that payroll will need, if we're going to implement a policy, payroll will need that for the first pay period in October, which that's when the pay increase would be implemented.
How long are they on probation now?
90 days, 6 months, I believe it's for public safety.
So if they've worked here 90 days and then
Then
they're
they're
gonna raise they're eligible then, so. I can see us, because sometimes we're having to negotiate a higher price to get somebody in to work now, and then you get them in, and then you give them a raise right on top of that, and then it throws everybody that's already been there, throws them off, so I'm happy with it.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve adoption of board approved pay increase policy.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Taylor, second by Commissioner South. Any discussion?
There's nothing in here as far as merit.
No, sir.
We're gonna look into that.
We are, actually, I have another pay policy that Bailey has drafted that discusses merit.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Number 10, 2020-2021 annual report for SHIP.
This is another one I'm covering for. So Sue actually was going to be here to present this, but she has a new grandbaby, so she couldn't be here tonight. The 2020-2021, the SHIP report is completed. As I'm sure the board's aware, we've had remaining funds from that year. So we have actually got to a point where we can complete the annual report for the 2021 fiscal year. So that's what you have before you, and requesting adoption of that.
And this closes out that year.
That will close out that year.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the 2020-2021 annual report for SHIP and authorize the chairman to sign the certification on behalf of the board.
Motion by Commissioner Whitten, second by Commissioner Taylor. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4. Number 11, request to review current procedure for SHIP certifications.
Yes, sir. Staff has reached out to Florida Housing for some clarification on a procedure that we have utilized within the SHIP program. We are looking to see, the state says that once a project is started, once the construction or the assistance of a SHIP assistance has begun, then there's no requirement for a recertification. However, they said if the board wants to implement a policy or a process where we recertify once we become aware of an income change, then we can do that. But currently, we have no policy that addresses it at all. So I bring before you tonight a question whether you want to implement a policy for recertification, or if you are satisfied with the one certification that we have. So I'm just looking for either direction, if you want us to create a policy, or if you would like to just remain with the practice that we have implemented in the past.
Mr. Chairman, I move to maintain the direction we're going right now with our SHIP program. No, we don't need to make any changes to where they have to recertify. I like it the way it is.
So, excuse me, Mr. Chair, may I ask, Mr. Chair?
You have the floor,
With these changes, let's just say, based on someone's income, they qualified, but then a few weeks later, they landed this job where their income was
increased by a lot, that would cause them to not fit the bracket anymore. So with this policy, then they would have to recertify and not qualify for the funds. Correct? That's what this does.
The state coordinator that we spoke to, or that responded to staff's inquiry, says it depends on where they are in the process. If the process of assistance has already started, construction, rehab has already started, then there's not a requirement to recertify. If the board chose to, they could, but it's not a requirement.
So we could be recertifying every step through this.
If the board chose to do that after the assistance has begun.
We'll second Mr. Sapp's motion.
Josh, you want to?
So I'm probably gonna step out of line, Tasha Morgan, Finance Director. So I don't feel as though the question that is being asked is being proposed in the manner it should. So I specifically brought the concern to Tammy, the county manager, and also the county attorney regarding a recent client that was brought before this board on 2 occasions. And to my knowledge, it's the first recertification that's been done. So I would like to make a public records request over the past 10 or 15 years of all recertifications that have been approved by the board. To my knowledge, this is the first one. So I think the issue that the clerk's office has raised and asked to be discussed with the board, and I'm sure it's been discussed individually, is in January, you were brought a SHIP client who qualified under a moderate income level that was approved. And because that client did not fully qualify, there was a contract approved by the board that required them to pay the difference of the construction. And then 6 months later, the employee, it is our employee, which I think bothers me a little bit more than everything. The client is our employee. For personal reasons, was left employment. And so the SHIP coordinator at the time brought it back before this board to ask them to consider. It was not disclosed as a recertification. Recertification was never discussed. What was asked was the board to consider changing the income level to extremely low because the applicant employee was no longer going to be employed and therefore qualified under extremely low. And that's fine. The board approved that and we moved forward. There was a specific question asked concerning whether the separation of employment was specific to being able to qualify for a lower income level. And it was denied. And then fortunately, the employee is able to come back to work within a matter of weeks and has now returned to work and no longer qualifies. And yes, I agree that it's not required to bring it back before the board to be recertified. And yes, since the payment has been returned to the client, they are now employed and their income level has changed. So when it was brought to my attention, and my concern with it was if on 2 occasions the board was asked to take action on an item, I feel that since we are the employer and to be full disclosed to the public of what is going on, it is only fair that the board have the opportunity to make a decision on the 3rd decision, which is not necessarily needed to be a recertification, but in all due respect, I think the board needs to be aware that the applicant has returned to work with the employer, being the county, and if the board desires to reaffirm the funding at extremely low, although they no longer qualify as extremely low, that's fine, it has the board's blessing. But if the board would like to take other action, I think that is fair. I'm not asking for a policy, I don't see it as a policy issue, which is why at this point I would request to see all recertifications that the board has done previously. I think there's a lot more surrounding this circumstance that I don't know that we want to have a conversation in public with, but that was the request of the clerk at the time that it was brought up months ago at this point. The request was that the board be given the opportunity to reconsider the change in circumstances just like they did in June. So I really didn't want to get up and say anything, but I don't feel that presenting the item as a consideration of a policy is really what, is the underlying issue. It is a single applicant issue.
But you're telling me that you think this has been done several times in the past?
I don't know that it's ever been done before, and whether an exception has been made, for an applicant that is also a county employee that works within the department that manages the SHIP program. And I just think it's fair that if we're going to do it for one, and if recertifications have been done previously, that's fine. It was not disclosed to the board in June that it was a recertification. The recertification was not brought to our attention that even existed until well after the question was posed as to whether we were handling the situation in a transparent and fair method. And I just feel, given that the second application to reconsider the income level was brought to the board for consideration, that in full disclosure, the third change in income level should have been disclosed to the board and given the board the opportunity to either leave it as it was or to make a change.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, when I asked the question, I wasn't thinking of anyone in particular. I was just trying to understand the policy that's being proposed here.
I still stand by my second, but if you guys want to bring that case before us, I'm okay with that as well.
Well,
I'm not withdrawing my motion.
that's ultimately what was supposed to happen tonight. It was our understanding, Tammy and I had both spoke to the attorney. We've not had great communication with the county manager on this issue, although I've brought it up. Weeks ago, it was brought up. We actually held payment to the vendor, and I don't believe that it's a contractual issue with the vendor. My concern is the issue on the applicant and the way the application has been held. When we spoke to the county attorney a couple weeks ago, week and a half ago, we approved payment to the vendor under the assumption that the concern over the application and applicant would have been addressed tonight. I don't have an issue with a policy. I don't understand why there's a need for a policy for something that doesn't happen. Apparently has only maybe happened on one occasion.
We were just given our agendas today.
Yes, received
So we
the
didn't
agenda
have
this
time.
morning and have had no conversation with anyone since a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, regarding what the item was how the item was going to be presented tonight. So I'm not looking for a policy. However, if recertifications are something that we're going to do going forward, I think it's great that the board has a policy on how to handle a recertification. I struggle with it because is anyone ever going to come back before the board and say my income level has increased and I no longer qualify? They're not. And my fear is your general applicant is outside of county employment. Are they even aware that there's a recertification process? Probably not. It's more likely that this has occurred because the applicant is also a county employee within the department. So, and that's why, again, I would request a list of prior recertifications. So.
Has the vendor been paid as of tonight?
Yes, we were requested to release, so the vendor has received 3. I think the third payment now is in the process. But the second payment was released after a conversation with the county attorney to move forward with the payment. We would have preferred that the concern have been cleared up weeks ago when it was first questioned.
So basically, according to the letter that we read, that SHIP was from the state wrote back, they said once construction started, there's no reason to recertify. That's his vote, right?
And that, well, if you read further, it says it is a board option. I understand what the state says the requirements are or are not. And without going into questioning the eligibility of the applicant. I do think it's our public responsibility that we are fair and ethical in how we treat cases. And my position goes back to being an item was brought before the board to reconsider the qualification based on a change in income. And within weeks, we hired the individual back. And so we knew we were fully involved in the process. And so I only think it's fair that if the board had been given an opportunity once to consider a change in income, if the applicant was outside of our employment and we are unaware, I get it. But when it's right in front of us and the date that I can't tell you without going back, and I didn't want to get to the point that we put dates on a piece of paper and line things up to when things happened. But I can tell you, we knew the applicant was coming back to work several weeks before she came back to work. And I only think it's right that if you're gonna have a program that you enter into contracts and then you change agreements and funding levels based on an income level, that when that income level changes and we're involved in it, it should be brought back before the board for consideration. And look, if you turn around and blessed it and said, we accepted it at this level, we changed it to a higher level based on qualifying for a much lower income level, and if you come back and said, you know what, we recognize that that individual's status has changed again, you brought it to us once, we're gonna bring it to you again, and we still bless it at the extremely low level, then so be it, the board made that blessing. But with outside of not addressing that, I don't think it's being handled appropriately, and that's just my personal and professional opinion as the finance director in the clerk's office.
All I can say is we want to be fair to everybody, and so if this person wasn't an employee of the county, we wouldn't even know.
Would
what
you ever
happened.
know?
So,
and that's my concern, and that's why I would like to know if it's ever been done.
I would say, I would be more in favor of making a policy that if we're going to give SHIP funds to employees or employees' relatives, that we have an outside vendor look at the SHIP, the whole thing, and give their opinion before we do something like that in the future. But it's kind of hard. Like I say, if this person wasn't employed here, this would have never been brought up, and we would have never known nothing. Because how do we know? I mean, like all these things that we've had before, how do we know they didn't win the lottery or something, and they've got all kinds of money now? Do we go back and make them pay off, or how?
No, and that was the original comment that was made to me when it was questioned, was that the state only takes a snapshot, one snapshot. But in this case, we've taken 2 snapshots, and we're on the 3rd snapshot. You were given the opportunity to look at 2 different snapshots in time. To my knowledge, I could be wrong, to my knowledge, that has not previously occurred except for in this instance. So that's why I feel that you got 2 snapshots, you should get the 3rd snapshot to be able to make a decision. Outside of that, I get it. I mean, you get 1 snapshot if you qualify at the time of application, assuming that we have vetted that application correctly, and we've determined the qualifications correctly, then that should be it. And if the income, we want everybody to go back to work. We want everybody to have a job. If the income changes after that, up or down, then maybe the position is we don't do the recertification. Again, it was not presented to the board as a recertification. Recertification was not used until after it was questioned. So I don't know that recertification is something that we've done or considered in the past and handled differently outside of this application. So.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Mr. Pringle, just go on a walk with me. Me and my wife, we were granted a SHIP loan, and through construction, me or my wife loses our job. If we get lower income, do we have the opportunity to come back and recertify that? I think that's what was done here.
Yes, sir. Under the state's guidelines, a request for recertification, is my understanding, can occur, which is a large part of the reason that, as I thought through what has happened, realizing the state does not have guidance for the county to either recertify in certain instances, loss of employment as an example, or to recertify in other instances where new employment is received. There isn't any guidance except for the state to say, once a construction has begun, then the state does not require any recertification to occur. So the thought was, you don't have anything at the county level that says recertify in these instances or never recertify, all of which would have avoided any questions related to the particular case that has, fact situation that has brought this to our attention. I did not know that we did not have a policy before.
I just don't know how we can do recertifications, because we're gonna be missing it, and we're gonna catch a few. And it's not fair to the ones we catch, because incomes change all the time. Wife leaves work, she goes back, or we get paid raise. I mean, I just don't see how we can go into that. Because we're gonna miss something. I'm not gonna come to you and say, hey, I just got $15,000 a year raise.
So then maybe the policy is that.
Certified once
Right.
if that abuses the state, I just don't see how we can do the other.
And so that's, and I can do that. So you can draw that bright line.
So I'm not an expert on the ship, but when you do somebody's income on the ship, is it their income right at that moment, or do they take like a 3-year average of their income, or how do you know that somebody all of a sudden you find out that, so most people quit their job and then come to me and say, I'm broke and I want to apply for a ship loan, and so I give them a ship loan, and then the next week they go back to work. Is there something that, how do you stop that? Do you know something about SHIP?
I do. I've worked with SHIP a little bit, but over in Hendry.
Just state your
And
name.
I don't, Yvonne Dahl, 1060 County Road 731. So I had a client, they qualified for SHIP in their original application. This was not a build, okay? It was just SHIP funds for helping down payment and closing costs. And they qualified for, in Hendry, it's 10, 20, and 30. But it's my understanding in Moorhaven or Glades County, it's 30 across the board. I don't know if that's still the same or not. But anyway, they do like verification of employment the day before closing. And literally, this girl qualified that whole time for 45 days. She did not realize that taking $1 raise just before Christmas from her boss was going to knock her out of qualifying for her SHIP funds. But she did. She lost it like 3 days before closing, because the policy for Hendry County at that time, now I don't know if it still is, was to do a verification of employment in the beginning. And just like any other lender, at the end of the loan, before they give you your money, they want to make sure you still have your job and that it's still based at the same thing that you apply for to begin with. So I understand what you're saying. When it's a build, it could take a year, 18 months, but they do, my understanding that that's a Hendry County policy, and it's been a while, you guys, that they did a verification of employment in the beginning, and not what you guys are calling certification, but a verification of employment just before closing. And what it does is it protects another family to be able to use those funds as well. And I guess that's why they check it the way that they do.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just, I don't like the stench of it, because the woman's penalized for excelling at work.
I know, and I have to tell my clients, literally, do not take a bonus, do not take a raise.
Yeah, I don't.
Wait for after your closing. I mean, it sounds crazy.
Or
but
don't
that's
miss a
what
job opportunity. I don't want that.
I know.
Well, and I think in this situation, the person came back to work after the deal was done. It wasn't, is that correct? So.
I don't want to encourage anyone not to work.
Or to take a bonus.
Well, I think we definitely need to adopt some kind of rules or regulations or something, because it seems like right now we don't have anything that says yay or nay in, a positive manner. I know it doesn't look good, but in reality, I don't see where there's anything that says, I mean, reading a letter from the state, it says that it's up to the county if they wanna recertify, but
I see the black eye, but that horse is out of the barn, I don't want.
any more comments? So we got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Sapp, second by Commissioner Whidden to, well, it was just to leave it the way it is, but I don't think we should, I think we should look into this and find out how to fix it so it doesn't happen again, but I don't see how we can fix the problem that's already before us. So, I mean, if you wanna change your, it's up to you. I can't make you change your motion, but I think that, personally, I think we need to look into it further and figure out what we can do to make sure that we are protected in the future.
I have already contacted, a third-party ship consultant, that has helped us in the past with CDBG. They are willing to, review, our, ship policies, our housing plan, and any files that we would like to bring with them to review. So I've already contacted them for some assistance on this.
I agree with what you're saying, Mr. Chair, but until we have a better, or at least another correction, I don't want to change.
So, excuse me, Mr. Chair, if I may, Ms. June or Mr. Pringle, and I spoke with you just a little bit today after getting the agenda, late Friday, I believe it was. So, the policy that we are proposing here, just break it down real simple.
I really didn't have a policy in mind, just questioning the board whether, do you want us to provide a policy?
We can look at other
Are you
counties and see
satisfied?
what kind of policies they've got on recertification. We can look at, ship's been a thorn, and we, for some reason, I don't know why, but ever since I've been here, there's always been a problem with ship, because it just seems like the county gives it this, whoever's sitting at the desk ain't got nothing to do that day and says, do it. Yeah, so, but we need to hire somebody that is skilled, but I still think that we need to, I'm not saying to change anything that's happened in the past, but I think we need to work on how we're gonna fix it in the future. But, with that, I can't support your motion, Mr. Sapp, but, I have a motion on the floor. Any more conversations?
I certainly don't want to penalize anyone for getting a bonus, getting a raise, or going back to work. I just,
But does
I
this
think if
say,
they meet the standard at time of application, that's, could it be done intentionally with, get the grant or get the increase and then go back to work? Yeah, it could.
And that's what I'm saying. We just need something in writing that says that's okay, if that's what we're gonna do in the future. But I think that we need to, the staff needs to come back and look at this thing and figure out what we can do to fix it down the road.
And it's gotta be fair, not just penalizing county employees, but how do we police everybody else under the ship to make sure that they didn't get a bonus, get a raise, if it can't be applied fairly.
I think I'm just going out there, but I don't think you can go and recertify every year on a person that's got a 30-year mortgage. But I think maybe if it's within 6 months of the beginning and the end, if something changes in that time, then yeah, maybe that's a policy. But all right, if you change, if you go to be the executive director of IBM in the first 30 days, then you're going to have to recertify. But I don't want this ship person to have to call every person every year and say how much money you're making, and do we recertify you on if you make 25 cents an hour or $5 an hour? I guess it'd be up whatever the ship income would be, but I definitely think that we need to get some kind of rules written, especially just for this instance, that's why we're here, because we don't have anything stating what to do in this situation.
So, excuse me, Mr. Chair, this agenda item here in particular isn't necessarily saying, let's make a policy, so someone will have to come and recertify every time their income changes. This isn't what this is.
Correct.
Correct, it's just to give permission for staff to explore if we need a policy or what might be in that policy.
We, like I said, I did reach out to a consultant to see if maybe they can assist us with something there. If the board feels like we need to change our practice, create a policy, just really looking for direction on how the board would like us to proceed.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, again, I agree with, Ms. Tasha that we may not know, but what would be an example of something that we would put in a policy?
We could include either one way or the other. Either like the state says, if the assistance has already begun, then we could have a policy saying then we don't recertify. If the assistance has begun, but we learn of additional income or a change, whether it be up or down in someone's income, that the board could choose to recertify. So we could go either way.
Or we could have policies that we just not recertify, period, before or after.
Right.
It's,
Just have a policy in place.
Yeah, they have initial certification and we don't do any more, so.
I just don't see how we can fairly recertify. I mean, incomes are coming up and down all the time. I mean, it just.
Well, basically, that's what
That's
we
what
did.
you did.
How
That's
can-
what you did, and that's why it was questioned, because it was originally approved at a higher income, so the SHIP funding was lower.
Right, I
And then
understand that.
when the change in employment occurred, before the change in employment occurred, it was brought back to you to ask to increase their SHIP balance, available funding.
Right.
And you did that. There was already contracts approved, there was contracts with the builders approved. A payment was made to the county for the difference from the applicant, and that's where my position was. We did a recertification to a lower income level, which upped the SHIP funding. So now that we know, because it's our county employee, that their income level has changed again to a higher, it's, in my position is it's only fair that that application comes back before the board so that the status of the application can be disclosed to the board just like it was the second time.
I get that, but we're here because we hired the person back. If that person would have got a job at Walmart, it would have flew probably under the radar, wouldn't be here. And if it can't be applied fairly,
Right.
I don't wanna do it. I mean, it just, to me, whether it's county staff or whether it's working wherever, if we don't have the ability to apply fairly, I don't wanna do it. I mean, I don't wanna be unfair to a person just because they re-employed with the county versus if they were re-employed with Walmart.
And I don't disagree with that, but then the second application should have never been considered. And that's where I feel, just for transparency to the public and to the board, the third change in situation should be discussed and approved by the board. That's all I was asking from day one, is that the board haven't had an opportunity to consider the second change. They should have an opportunity to consider the third change. And I didn't like the first change. Had it been asked to me, I would have said the first change should not have been brought to the board. You take a snapshot, that's what the qualification was at the time. Because you're not gonna know the outside person, but I feel more passionate about it because we are involved. It is the county. We knew the employment situation was changing. There's a lot more that could be discussed with that. But if you're gonna make it the first change, then the board should make the decision on the second change. I don't disagree that a policy, since apparently this is now going to be a thing, it definitely needs to be considered.
So we could put something like that in the policy.
Yeah. Well, right now, we don't have any rules. I mean, we just have what the state says, so it's not, I think we need to fix this.
So voting on creating a policy, we could make it fair. I think
I think the thing would be to just give staff the direction to work on fixing this problem.
The only fair thing I see, and it's not fair, but it's the fairest, is take that snapshot, run off of that. Because I don't wanna penalize someone we've got working for the county, or encourage someone to work under the table that we don't know about. And they're getting an advantage, but a county employee, we're going to do it at the highest level because we know. I mean, I think you gotta take that snapshot, because I know your bonuses come and go, hours come and go, depending, I mean, incomes are always gonna be changing. And can't do it and be absolutely fair to every shipping applicant. I don't wanna do anything. I think fair, but we can implement as much fairness in it as we can. And I certainly don't wanna discourage somebody from working or taking or excelling so they get a bonus.
I'd like to speak one more time, but next
I'm sorry, guys. So I think there is a policy, and everybody has a copy of that. Every county gets one. I mean, I believe there's a policy for SHIP.
Well, there is a policy from the state, but it's very vague from what we've
But
read.
the counties are allowed to implement additional policies on top of that.
Apparently, because it's very, very strict in other places. And because it's really not our money. That money comes from the state.
All right. Thank you. So I still have a motion on the floor to just not make any changes whatsoever by Mr. Scott, second by Mr. Wood.
I'm still gonna stand on my second, unless something better is brought before us. I mean, maybe we say we just take the one snapshot, if that's what we want as policy, put it in writing and we'll go from there.
Well, I mean,
Mr. Chairman, we've discussed it, we've seen all
All right,
sides of it, we've got a motion and a second, let's vote.
the motion by Mr. Scott, second by Mr. Wood, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 2-2, failed.
Thank the Lord.
It failed.
Okay, so now we come up with a policy.
I think we direct staff to give us a policy that so this doesn't happen in the future, that's what I'm trying to say. Everybody agree with that?
I agree, and myself, I don't wanna be unfair to anyone, I don't wanna take anything away from someone once something has started, but I don't believe it hurts us to have a policy, so we'll have something to go by on exactly the things that Ms. Tasha was speaking about tonight.
Yeah, just
So
wanna
we
be
know
real
whether
careful.
to come back to be certified, not be certified, once, twice, snapshot, this is what we're doing, we're just.
With the policy, I wanna be real careful. I don't wanna discourage anyone from taking a job. I mean, because they've had, too few people who work today, someone's willing. I don't wanna, this looming over them and cause them not to take a job.
Like I say, the policy could say, once you're certified, that's it, there's no changes, period.
That's it.
Right, I mean, I didn't see anywhere in
That takes
this
our
where it's.
snapshot,
Takes it all out.
and that's what it is.
Anyway, we talked about that enough. You got direction, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, request to approve the annual implementation plan for year 2, 24-25 for the opioid settlement funds.
This is our annual agreement with the Hanley Foundation. They provide mental health services for the county. We get funding from the opioid settlement every year. Last year it was like $68,000. It's cut a little bit more than half this year. And they anticipate that it will continue to be reduced each year. But again, the Hanley Foundation has a contract with Central Florida Behavioral Health, who contracts with the state. So we utilize their services here. Just have to move forward with this implementation.
The money has to be spent for that.
Yes, sir.
And I've worked with Hanley Group quite a bit. They have meetings once a month. But they are getting out into the schools.
They're distributing Narcan.
Yeah, they're putting Narcan all over the place. Yes. But anyway, so they are using the funds.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the 2024-2025 annual implementation plan with the Hanley Foundation to be the provider and request staff to submit the plan to BOCC.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Wooden, second by Commissioner Taylor. Any discussion?
Yeah, I mean, God bless them for that. You wouldn't think you'd have to have, Narcan in an elementary school, but it just, I was talking to the lady at Challenger and a couple more places, and it'd be so easy just to pick up a baggie, and if it contained fentanyl, that kid's, so thank God for them, and I applaud them getting the Narcan out, because it may not intentionally ingest the drug, but you may have it in your system at that point, the Narcan could save you, so I appreciate what they're doing.
Hey, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Number 13, request to approve the professional service agreement with Johnson Engineering for CEI services for County Road 74, FM number 436657-1-54-01.
This is a request to approve the professional services agreement. The board actually went to bid back in 2019, and we just never executed an agreement with Johnson for the CEI services. Just before this meeting, I did receive an email from FDOT approving this contract, so we are good to go on it if the board approves.
This is for the inspection?
Yes, sir.
We'd be right on 74 gets paid.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the professional services agreement with Johnson Engineering for CEI services for CR 74, FM number 436657-1-54-01, contingent upon FDOT approval and authorize the chairman to sign.
Second.
Any motion by Commissioner Taylor, second by Commissioner Wooden. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Number 14, request to approve the professional service agreement with Johnson Engineering for CEI services at FEID number 438573-1-54-01/02.
Yes, sir, this is pretty much the same as the previous item. We went to bid back in 2019. We did not get an executed contract, so we're just cleaning that up. This is for 721, which we did receive a bid for recently, so we need to get this contract in place. FDOT did approve this contract also late today.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the professional services agreement with Johnson Engineering for CEI services for County Road 721, FEID number 438573-1-54-01/02, contingent upon approval from FDOT. And authorize the chairman to sign.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Wooden, second by Commissioner Stott. Any discussion?
Sounds like we're good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Number 15, request to approve the First Amendment to interlocal agreement between Glades County, Florida and the Seminole Tribe of Florida for roadway improvements for County Road 721.
Mr. Chairman, I can talk about that one, if it is acceptable to you. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
I have been talking to the attorney for the special counsel for the tribe concerning County Road 721, and in particular, the construction on phase 1, which is the north end from the county line down to Bullhead Grade. That is phase 1. That area, the county has a state grant agreement, funding agreement with the state FDOT for that, and if you recall, it has taken some time to get to this point because AIM Engineering, and in particular Mr. Hall, went through the process of confirming that the road bed was unstable and needed additional work at an additional cost. So recently FDOT approved the additional work and additional funding. Glades County went out to bid using AIM Engineering to put together the bid documents. And so AIM Engineering went out to bid on that phase 1 work. Ajax, there were several responders who came back, if you recall. There was an extension of the bid deadline recently to add a few more days. I believe that occurred at the day meeting, the last meeting that you had. So the bid deadline came, and after the bid deadline, AIM Engineering reviewed the bids, the bid responses, and determined that Ajax was the lowest responding, lowest responding bidder. When all the math is done, all the cost, all the pre-construction cost for engineering and for design work and for the construction engineering inspection work that Johnson Engineering is going to perform later, when all that is totaled up, and then when the cost of the construction bid from Ajax is added to that cost, what you discover is that the total cost of the project, including all the pre-construction costs and the engineering cost, is about a little under $1 million, right around $1 million, if I remember it correctly, more than the state grant agreement dollar amount. So, the amendment to the tribe agreement provides that the tribe is going to pay that shortfall to the county, so that it will not cost the county any extra money. Either the state grant agreement is going to fund part of the total cost of phase 1 of the 721 work, or the tribe will supplement that. In the first amendment to the agreement, when you take a look at that, you will see that that the tribe, that language is in here that requires the tribe to pay the county the first draw amount, which is the balance of what we know the work will cost us before we either approve the bid to Ajax, or enter a contract with Ajax, or give Ajax a notice to proceed. And I made it abundantly clear in my conversation with the tribe's attorney on Friday that the county, that's the only way that the county can proceed, because the county just does not have the funds to have any risk for any part of the construction. So and the tribe's council told me today that was acceptable to him. He did have a request in paragraph 4 of the First Amendment. He requested a change to the language that is acceptable to me before. The copy that you have of the First Amendment says that the tribe shall pay the initial known grant deficit to the county in the amount of, I'm sorry, I was short, in the amount of $1,397,517. I said approximately $1 million. It's $1,397,000, almost $1,400,000. So he asked for that change. So I agreed that from my standpoint, from a legal standpoint, that it was okay to delete the word pay and to replace it with that the tribe will immediately approve and process the payment of the grant deficit of $1,397,000. And then the other thing that he wanted to change, he asked the change, was to add a sentence that says all change orders in the future will be within the initial scope of the project. And that's also okay, because AIM Engineering has already designed the work that is going to be performed by Ajax. So that's okay to say that. If there is a change in the scope of work, then that would be a substantial change order to Ajax's contract and would require us to go back through and get the grant agreement, get the FDOT folks to approve a change to the grant agreement as well. So that's all, that would be something that would take quite a bit of effort on our part to deal with. So I'm okay with the language change that he asked there. And then I had also acknowledged that if there are any grant deficit amounts that the tribe pays that are not utilized, then the county would return those excess funds, unused funds, back to the tribe, which I thought was fair and had suggested that before. So they, by this first amendment, are essentially the tribe is agreeing to cover the difference between the actual cost for the completion of the project, which includes all the professional services and things, pre-construction work, through to completion. So,
And you feel pretty good that this is ironclad, that none of this, I mean, we're gonna spend our grant money and the rest of the additional can't come back on us, it's gonna have to go to the tribe.
well, so I feel as good as I can that, number one, the tribe has to sign the agreement before we will issue any notice to proceed to Ajax or enter into any contract with Ajax. Number two, not only will the tribe have to sign the agreement, but the tribe will have to send us the funds, $1,397,000. We'll have to receive that again before we award to Ajax, before we enter the contract with Ajax, and before we issue a notice to proceed to them. So I've done everything that I could to make sure that they've contracted to pay us the money without being able to back out of that, and that they paid us the money so that we have control of the money before we ever approve the award to Ajax. So the next item, Mr. Chairman, on your agenda is to award the CR 721, the phase one work to Ajax. When you get to that item, you're going to hear me say that I ask that you make the award conditioned upon us getting a signed agreement from the tribe, us getting the funds from the tribe before we do anything else.
We're gonna have AJ's locked in at that price, there can't be any runs.
And if there are any change orders, then those change orders are covered in this agreement to also be paid by the tribe at a later date.
With that, Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the First Amendment to the interlocal agreement between Glades County, Florida, and the Seminole Tribe, Florida, for roadway improvements to County Road 721, contingent upon FDOT approval, contingent upon the Seminole Tribe of Florida approval, and authorize the chair to sign.
With changes.
Right, and also, if you could, please, if the motion can also say, and also conditioned upon receipt of the funds.
And also conditional upon receipt of the funds.
A motion by Commissioner Whitten, second by Commissioner Taylor. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Number 16, request to award to Ajax Paving Industries of Florida Incorporated the CR 721 Road Improvements Project, FM number 438573-1-54-01/02.
I think he's got it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is the companion to item number 15, agenda item number 15. As I indicated earlier, AIM Engineering assisted the county with the process of going through the request for bids process on phase one of 721, County Road 721. There were several responses that came in. Ajax was the lowest responsible bidder. And so they have completed the bid. AIM Engineering has reviewed it. I believe you will see a letter from AIM Engineering dated September 18, 2024 that was a part of your packet that shows the 4 bids that were received. By the way, in the request for bids, AIM Engineering included a request to accelerate the construction project, and there was an additional cost for that acceleration of the construction project. That was at the request of the tribe. The tribe wanted to accelerate the work and wanted that to be an alternate bid. We included that at their request. We included that. They are also paying that additional cost for the acceleration of the work as well, the tribe is. So they'll pay for that on top of the other part that they agreed to pay. So you have 4 bids there. Ajax was the low bid, as you can see there. And AIM Engineering, based upon its review, is recommending selection of Ajax Paving's bid with the acceleration, with the alternate 1 bid for the acceleration of work and the additional price for that. So the motion would be to award the bid to Ajax Paving with the alternate 1 option, conditioned upon the tribe signing the first amendment and conditioned upon the tribe paying the county in full of the $1,397,517 and condition the notice to proceed upon all that activity occurring.
And I did receive notification from FDOT today that they concur with the awarding to the lowest bidder.
So they're happy with Ajax as well.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Pringle's motion, so I missed the last 3, but.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion by Commissioner Whitten, second by Commissioner Sapp. Any discussion? As far as the expedited, accelerated time frame, who's going to hold Ajax to the wheel on that? Is that AIM's job to do that?
CEI.
AIM Engineering and Johnson Engineering both.
I'm sure they're gonna get a lot of pressure.
I would think they'd jump on that's an extra $300,000.
For a wonder, with a million for expedition. Anyway, I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Whitten, second by Commissioner Sapp. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. All right, that ends our items. Constitutional officers, Sheriff? Do we have anybody else here? Tammy? No? Anything from the health department? Good? County attorney?
Yes, sir. 2 just very brief items. I mentioned Mr. Hall a little bit ago, and he has had some physical maladies recently. He's in the hospital. So he has been a good friend to Glades County. It was him that brought up the problems with 721, and it was him that was so adamant about it that he even overruled his son, the president of AIM Engineering today, and really pushed hard for Glades County. So if you can remember him in your prayers and thoughts at this time, I would appreciate that. The other thing is that what you did not see on your agenda this evening that you may have thought you might see is related to Lakefront Estates and the financial assurances agreement for Lakefront Estates. If I remember right, I may have mentioned that at one time earlier that it was in the works. It is in the works. I've had a number of conversations, detailed conversations with Lakefront Estates attorney and Mr. Carlisle, their representative, and And my anticipation is that that item will be brought back to you very soon for your consideration. There's still a few more details and bits of information that we need to get in hand, that the county needs to get in hand. And we've talked about those, and so that's the plan. They do continue to make some progress on acquiring a development order. That's their next big step in their process, and they are working toward that, and we are working with them to try to get that accomplished. That's it.
And an MOU with the Baptist Church in Lynchburg for a hurricane shelter, please.
Yes, that'll be on your agenda in October.
That'll be great. That'll get some relief. Anything else? Anybody have anything for county attorney?
Yes, sir. The Big Lake builders out there, 721, where are they standing at now?
They are moving forward. There have been some determinations. Their application appeared to be sufficient, and a determination or sufficiency letter has been issued to them, as I recall, indicating that the application is sufficient. At this point, their application is being reviewed.
They actually have comments ready to go to them.
Okay, so it should move forward with both the residential, there's a residential component and a commercial component as well. So it will be coming to you as a plan development approval as well.
I look forward to seeing that. He was excited about it, ready to turn dirt, and I think it's a big benefit to the citizens of Glades County. Those looking for all of this. He looks into cash in on the expansion of the casino.
Mr. Chairman, that also reminds me that with regard to 721, the construction of 721, their AIM Engineering has also been looking over some of those plans and has indicated recently that they do look very good. The tribe is putting forth a great deal of effort.
They certainly are. I see it. They're not scraping the top. I mean, they're milling down a good 8-9 inches and coming back with new asphalt.
And we are going to try to make sure, in fact, the other part of the amendment with the tribe that you approved this evening was a provision that I also added that says that once all the improvements are constructed, especially in the reservation, because the tribe is adding sidewalks and lighting and all kinds of other additional improvements besides just the road surface repaving. So we're gonna make sure part of this agreement, First Amendment that you approved tonight, is to make sure that when all that work is completed, that we will modify the right-of-way to make sure that it includes all of those improvements. All of those will be in the 721 right-of-way. Just trying to cover everything and make sure I process everything.
Anything else for the county manager? Or county attorney? Now we'll go to county manager.
I'll just second Commissioner Whidden on the project out there. So, one that's very exciting, and that's gonna be a great benefit to Glades County. And also, speaking of plan development, you know what I'm thinking about.
I
Yeah,
do. I did not bring your cup of coffee this evening.
Okay. Well,
Or a piece of paper.
have you heard from Ben
about-
Smith, or, I mean, I know Miss Sue isn't here, so.
I have not. No, ma'am, I did not see anything from him today.
Okay, maybe we can reach out again too.
I will. Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
County manager.
Yes, sir. I just want to let the board know that I appreciate your patience with all these steps that we have to take for these road projects. They're all starting to come together at the same time. So you will see these little steps, but FDOT is adamant about they have to review things before the next step. So we have a few steps we're going to go through, but it's exciting to see things are happening. we have these road projects moving forward. So hopefully we'll be able to see asphalt, on these roads and see them moving. The next one that we, will be getting our design plans for is the Lake Drive West. So that will be the next one. Again, we'll have several steps we have to go through, and I appreciate the board's patience on that.
Did they ever give a date on Cornelia and Crescent when they're gonna start construction?
We did receive the documents back from the contractor last week. So I don't have a date that the contractor has provided to us yet, but as soon as I do, I will make sure I let the commissioners know that.
I was gonna ask you something. Oh, that's what I was gonna ask you.
Excellent. Yeah.
Anybody do anything
They
else?
haven't provided a date.
It would seem inappropriate to gripe about me having to drive through the construction on 721, but man, they are blowing through it. It really looks good out there. They're making a lot of headway, and they're doing it fast. I know it's a pain in the butt. I deal with it every day, but you know, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
It's got it.
Right. Yeah, that's exciting.
Anything else?
The only thing I believe, I suppose I missed you about it today at DOT, you haven't heard about the paving right there in front of them.
I have not. I think I did mention that there was supposed to be a meeting, and it was supposed to be on the 25th, which is Wednesday. We did find out it's actually been postponed till the 3rd, I believe it is. But we still don't have a time and a location yet. We're supposed to be getting something on that. So hopefully we'll get some information on that soon.
Thank you.
The last we heard was gonna be in Sebring, and it's like, why
Somewhere
are you
in
gonna be in
Sebring.
Sebring when it works here? But then they're doing something on 17 in, Polk County, I believe, and they're gonna have a meeting in Doyle Connor building, so I don't, that don't make sense. I'll just say, I don't think they want any public comment. All right, we'll move on to department heads. Connie, do you have anything else to say, or, I mean, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Connie Van Ash with CAS Governmental Services. I just wanted to give you a brief update about the grants. It's quarterly report time, so we're working on that. And then the feasibility study for the sheriff, we've been collaborating with Mr. Rutherford and the county for that monthly report. So we're working forward for that. And then the only other thing I wanted to, briefly touch on was for Tallahassee, the 2 weeks in December are committee weeks, 2 in January and 3 in February. And we just kind of, I know the elections are not finished, but we need to start preparing our legislative priorities. And I would say, since the legislature will meet on November 19th to organize with their new representatives, anytime after that, we should really be prepared with our priority packet. And I'm working with my staff to move forward with that. If you have any questions for me, I'm available.
Keep up the good work.
All right, thank you.
Department heads, I don't see anybody else. Guess we'll move on to commissioners' items. Commissioner Seth.
Well, I got information that, some of the playground equipment out at the fire department has been vandalized. And at one point, I don't know how bad it is, but I talked with Archie about it, and we may put cameras out there if it continues on. So we are aware of that.
They do what?
The playground equipment, it's at the old fire building.
It's been there a long time.
Yes, ma'am. And never had problems before that I know of, but I guess it's graffiti, whatever, being written on it. So Archie, we talked about it, and if it continues, we'll put cameras up out there.
Okay, well, I started to say we're bringing you some more. I thought you said you're gonna tear it out. But we do have some.
We've never had problems with that, as
No.
long as I can remember. So anyway, and then, the Palmdale Community Association so graciously donated a very nice stove. So, gotta move it along there. And, Saturday evening, I went to Evelyn and I went, I guess you could call it maybe a victory dinner out at Washington Park, and it was really nice. It was, there's a lot of people there, and we really had a great time, good food. And Evelyn enjoyed it, bless her heart. She was hurting a little bit. She's getting old, I'm not gonna tell y'all, but we did have a good time. And, people are still complaining about the water in Palmdale, and it's gonna continue till it dries out. So, other than that, everything is good.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes, just to clarify earlier when I was speaking with our attorney, and I mentioned he knew what I was talking about, plan development, but just in case you don't know, what I was talking about, he did, but just in case you don't, I want to share with you that the county owns some property on 27 by, the iTech Center, and we are currently working on a plan development, and hopefully soon after that, plating, because we have some developers interested. And so that's what I am pushing on, getting the ball rolling, because we do have someone that has been interested in the past, and hopefully he still is. I think he is, last time I spoke with him. He wants to put us a Dunkin' Donuts in, and so he just wants to start with that. So we do need some growth, and I'm excited for the RFPs to be put out on that. So that's just so everyone knows. Not to take away from our newly opened coffee shop, and she knows about the Dunkin' as well. But I don't think that'll take away from her at all. If you hadn't tried it out, what's the name of it, Brittany? Old 27 Coffee Co. And she opened, I believe she had a grand opening this past Saturday. If you hadn't tried her coffee, she has all kinds of treats in there as well, just to give her a little plug. But yes, we're excited about that, but you know, I think we can keep both of them going. Besides that, I wanted to mention again, Washington Park Community Center. I know we talked about a new floor and some light fixtures. Do you know if anything was ever?
I don't know that anything has happened to that yet, but our facilities maintenance department is gonna work on that.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. And I know we don't have anyone in SHIP right now, and I won't speak about SHIP very long, but hopefully we'll get somebody in that position and we'll get the policy going and everybody will be happy. But I spoke with Miss Margaret Brown, and I don't know if there's, someone can reach out to her, if you put that in your notes. She says that she had something done, I don't know exactly what it was, but she's thinking that it wasn't done correctly, and now she has mold, so. And I did just happen to see this in my notes. I can't remember if I mentioned it to you before or Miss Cindy before she left. I did mention it to her.
I'll check.
Okay. And I believe that's all I have.
And I don't have much. I mean, just congratulations to the new coffee shop and Jessica Stafford. Thank God she, I don't know, crazy enough to bring in new business, but hopefully everybody supports it. Looks like a real nice place on the inside, so wish her all the success in the world. And just want to duplicate what Mr. Pringle said about Mr. Hall. He's a really interesting guy. He used to come quite a bit. I think when we first started this venture on 721 years ago, and that guy forgot more about roadway and asphalt in the last 10 minutes than I'll ever know. And I know he knew terms way above my head, but he somehow had a way of getting it right through you where you understood exactly what he was talking about. So whatever his elements are, I just wish him, you know, speedy recovery. He was a real asset and hope to see him continue to do that. A real interesting guy to talk to. I enjoyed watching him at the podium. He was an education, so glad, wish for his recovery, best thing. He'll certainly be in my prayers. Other than that, I don't have much more. We got a hurricane going to be blowing up our skirt this week, so Just prepare for the worst, hopefully we'll get the best, but when things don't always do what they're told, I mean, we're gonna get some rain off of it, but, you know, I just wouldn't take it for granted. We've seen them turn before, so better be overly prepared. You can drink your water next time if you don't use it. That's all I have.
They don't have a whole lot either. They did open up the store in use again, which is great. We got another little place that's open that hopefully they'll stay open this time, but, there's some, I know I was at the Muse community meeting the other night and they had some problems with, Jack's Branch Road and Sunset Boulevard, I believe, that I told Archie about, so I don't know if he'll get up there and look at it or not, but, we do have some major flooding all over the county. I mean, it's wetter this year than I think I've ever seen. Around 78, Ortona, not at Ortona, but up by the sand line, it is really bad, but, we did work with the Corps of Engineers and they did clean up the culverts that drain 27, that helped them people out there some, but, so I don't know, I think maybe down in the future, we need to get a meeting with water management and the Corps here and kind of look at some of this area and see if there's anything if possible that can be done, or if it's something that can be done prior to all the rain coming. But when we were in Pensacola, me and Commissioner Taylor were up there for this conference, but we met a guy up there who does modeling for counties and comes in and like does your how many people live here and what it can support for housing and for affordable housing and everything. But he has told us he has got a great contact with Aldi's, and he's surprised that we don't have one here. So I told him, I said, hey, we got some land here. We're willing
Oh, I forgot to mention that. I gave him my card.
be willing to barter with you. So he talked like he may come to this thing for Glades County for free. I don't know exactly what he does, but I guess they're trying to get into the business, and he said, I think so. Me and us in Henry County, I think they might come in and provide that service for us for nothing. So that would be great. The only other thing, one of the things that was up there, they had a lot of the stuff that they're trying to get past. They don't like solar panels, and they don't like. We don't have any solar panels in our county. I know Joey's got a whole bunch, and then some of the counties up there have got thousands and thousands of acres. But one thing that's influenced us was they're trying to get it so that the bass guides don't have, the person that goes out fishing with the bass guide doesn't have to buy a license. He'd be licensed under the captain of the boat. I don't know how.
Just like saltwater.
It's like saltwater, so I don't know what a charter boat captain's license is compared to a bass,
It's a six-pack license, is what they call the bass.
It may be more expensive than what they're asking, but that's one of the issues up there. But other than that, I think we've got extensive rain already here, and if all this rain that's supposedly going to come, we might be in trouble. I don't know, but that's all I've got. Anybody else have anything?
Well, I just want to say, y'all aware, I'm sure you are, about our employee that had the wreck on 78?
I heard a little bit about that. You want to update us?
He's
was
fine.
Yeah, he's fine.
No, he's okay.
Yeah. He didn't, at first he refused transport, but then he agreed just so we could have him checked out. But yeah, he didn't suffer any injuries.
That's good.
The truck, a little bit, yeah.
More than a little bit. We drove by, I was thinking.
Yeah, it rolled.
My husband told me about it, and I said I didn't know who it was. Everybody's okay.
The motor's good.
The stuff inside the trailer.
It's good.
Sure, I mean, we're done.
All right, a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Scott, second by Michael Taylor, and we are adjourned officially at 7:48. Oh, one thing I'll just tell you before we leave. I got it on my calendar here. It says Western Okeechobee Inflow Watershed Base Level Engineering Project. That's going to be here at the Dwell Connor Building from 10 to 11:30 on Thursday, September 26th. I don't know what that is, but they show a big flood map of like the whole northern part of the state coming through Palmdale and all the way down to, so it might be something I will definitely be there, but I don't know who's putting it on or what, but I've got an invitation.
Waterman.